a lady got mad at me because I wouldn't give her one of my books, because I have to buy the books in order to sell them, know, and so, but I only had like a very few, and I was fixing to go to a book signing, so I was like, well, I've limited on books, and I really need to say what I have for this event. for the book event. So I said, but if you'll come and buy it, because I've literally given her like 3 of my last books, and she was like, well, as much as you make as an author, it wouldn't really hurt you. I was like, oh, sweetie, let me tell you.
Yes. Yes.
Authors, we're not all James Patterson rolling in the dough.
No.
Welcome to the Bookish Introverts Podcast. Join host Amazon bestselling author Brett Nelson and avid reader Melanie Dyer as they dive in to review books they've read, then chat with the amazing authors behind them. Quiet minds, big bookshelves. You don't want to miss it.
Hey everyone, it's Brett and Charity, and we're back to continue our Baker Publishing Author Interview Summer event. And for those of you who haven't watched, this is our 3rd episode of this summer event, and so far we've talked to Suzanne Woods Fisher and with Ann Gabhart. Today we've got Liz Johnson on. She's a romance author. So Liz, come on in and say hi to everybody.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. It's great to have you. Have you talked to either one of those authors?
Yes, both of them. They're both dear ladies and so kind and amazing authors. I'm fans of both of them, and just them as people and them as authors. They're incredible.
Absolutely. They were both so wonderful to chat with, but I'm telling you, Ann Gabhart is an absolute treasure.
Yes.
An absolute treasure.
Yes. Oh, she's such a delight and just such a kind, gentle spirit. And yes, I adore her.
Yeah.
Suzanne and I were at an event together several years ago, and there were a bunch of Baker authors, and she just sort of acted as mother hen for us and just kind of kept her chicks like going in the right place. And she was just so dear and so kind. And she has remained a good friend.
She seems like she definitely has that servant's heart for other people. How often do you get together with other authors from the publishing company? Is that something you guys do often, or?
No, well, I wouldn't say it's often, but there are opportunities over the course of, several years. That particular event that I mentioned was in New Orleans. It was a, it was Book Lovers Con, and Ravel had invited, and Baker had invited several authors to join them there. And that was just a really sweet time. And we got to meet a lot of readers and a lot of librarians, and it was really cool. But we also, there are some writing conventions throughout the year, like the American Christian Fiction Writers Conference. That's every year, like in August, September, usually. And usually there's a good number of Baker Publishing authors who will be there. In this summer, in July, the end of July, the Mississippi River Readers Retreat is taking place in Little Falls, Minnesota. And that's not too far from where Bethany House, which is a division of Baker, is headquartered in Minneapolis. And so there's a number of Baker authors who are participating in the Mississippi River Readers Retreat. And we're also going to get to visit the offices there, which is really fun because I've never been to the Bethany House offices. So I'm looking forward to that.
Ann and I talked about that a little bit. She was like, if you or any of your listeners ever get the chance to go to that Bethany House up in Michigan, she was like, you must go.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Baker Book House.
Yes. Baker Book House. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I did an event there a couple of years ago. It was incredible. Yeah. Baker Book House is just like the best. If you like indie bookstores, it's pretty incredible.
Oh, and I love indie bookstores. So have you ever, and it doesn't have to be like Christian fiction or people within your realm of authors. Have you ever met an author that you kind of fangirled over?
Oh, yes. Many times. Probably the worst was Karen Whittemire, who writes historical romance set in Texas. And as I mentioned, I was at the American Christian Fiction Writers Conference many years ago, and she was in an elevator, and I stepped in, and then I realized who she was, and I just lunged at her like, oh my gosh, you're Karen.
I love it.
And poor thing, I think she nearly had a heart attack. She was so gracious, but I was like, oh my gosh. And I just profusely told her how much I loved her books. And she was very gracious. But yes, I've had a few of those moments. Another one was Julie Clausen, who now is a dear friend of mine. But when I first met Julie, another friend had invited her to that. So I was having brunch with another friend, and this other friend invited Julie to join us. I didn't know that. So then when Julie showed up, I was like, oh my gosh, you're Julie Clausen. And this moment. And to this day, Julie makes fun of me for it. But,
oh my gosh. I love that.
She's got a great sense of humor, and thankfully I can laugh at myself about that. So
yeah. I've got one of her books in my Kindle that I haven't read yet. I think it's called Ivy House Christmas or something like that. Is that one of her? Yeah.
Yes.
I have never been a fan of historical fiction, but I think
you're starting to turn.
I think I'm going to have to change my views because I've read several,
and you've not hated them.
No, and I absolutely love like Anne Gabhart. So I think I'm coming around to historical fiction.
I think you've just been reading the wrong historical fiction.
Maybe that's what it is. Yes. So, all right. Well, Charity, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about Liz, and then we'll kind of move on.
All right. We pulled this from your website, so.
Sure.
By day, Liz Johnson is a marketing manager. She makes time to write late at night. That's when she thinks best anyway.
I do a lot of writing at night too. I'm a writer too. And if it weren't for night times, I'd never get anything written.
I don't know how y'all find time to write. Liz is the author of more than a dozen novels, a New York Times bestselling novella, and a handful of short stories. She's a Christie Award finalist and a 3-time ACFW Carroll Award finalist. She makes her home in Phoenix, Arizona, where she enjoys exploring local music, theater, and doting on her nieces and nephews. She writes stories of true love filled with heart, humor, and happily ever afters. You wrote your first short story when you were 7?
Yes.
And then signed her first book contract at 27.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
7 years old. Tell us about that.
Oh, well, it was not high literature or anything, but
the fact that you at 7 were thinking, I want to write a book.
Well, it was a school assignment, and I was homeschooled at the time, and my mom gave me like a 2-paragraph story starter. So it started the story for me, and it was about a bear, and I had 2 paragraphs, and I was supposed to write 2 more paragraphs. Well, I wrote 2 pages because I couldn't stop. And I remember sitting at the dining room table, like asking my dad, how do you spell this word? And what, and because I knew the words, but I didn't always know how to spell them. And so I just always had stories in my heart, and I couldn't wait to tell them. And writing just was the easiest way for me to get those out.
Yeah. And I don't know if you've talked to how much you know about Anne Gabhart, but she wrote her first little story when she was 10. So
that's awesome.
I think it's something that the Lord really puts in people. I mean, it's a gift that he gives just like any other.
Yeah.
So we have a mutual friend that's an author, and she self-publishes. And we were talking, she was at my house the other day, and she was actually telling me that kind of the same thing. When she was little, when people would ask her what she wanted to be, she wanted to write a book. Yeah. And she said, I didn't know then that it would be a novel. She goes, at 7 or 8 or 9 years old, I thought it would be a children's book, like for me. Because I was telling her, I was like, I really want you to write a children's book for my kids.
Yeah.
And she's also an artist. I was like, and I want you to illustrate it. And she's like, well, gee, just give me all my assignments then.
Right.
But she was saying that as a child, that was kind of one of her dreams. And so I think we were talking about that, how the Lord just gives gifts, and that was something that he gave her. And I think obviously it's something he's given the 2 of you as well, to be able to write these stories that touch people's hearts.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. When it's in you, you can't let it go.
Right. For sure. Yeah.
And as a reader, I appreciate that. So just keep spitting them out.
As long as the Lord lets us, we will. Because I don't know about you, but I love it. I love writing novels.
Is there kind of for both of you, is there kind of like a high that comes with it when you get one finished, or you get a section of a book completed? Like you hear about runner's highs, people who run or like do things like that. So is it similar to that when you complete something?
Liz,
for me,
go ahead.
definitely. Yeah, for me, for sure. I don't actually like the process of writing that well. It's hard. It's hard work for me.
It is.
And it's very emotionally taxing, and it just takes a lot out of me. But the the feeling of having written is very satisfying. So I never sit down to write and go like, oh, I can't wait to write. But I never, after I finish writing, I never regret it. Like, I'm like, oh, wow. Like, even if the scene didn't come together like I thought it would, or even if it's a challenge, it's like, okay, but I'm one step closer, and I can edit. I can edit a bad page, but I can't edit a blank page. So if I can at least get it down, if I can get something down, then I know that I'm one step closer to finishing. And man, there is really no other feeling quite like holding up your book when it's done and it's got a cover and it's pages and it's like, this is something that, this is a story God gave me. And I was faithful to do what I was supposed to do with my talent. And I put it out there, and now it's no longer in my hands, but this is the work of my hands. And man, it's a great feeling. It's a really great feeling.
Oh, it is. It is such an amazing feeling. And I've got a friend who she just finished her first nonfiction book. It's based on, I forget which, and I just beta read it for her, and I've already forgotten what it was based on. It was sort of like the scriptural basis of it was from one of the books of the Bible. I'm thinking Esther, but it may not. Anyway, so, and it's really good, you know. And so she was like, but she said, I just can't get it to the place that it's ready to, you know, to start sending out there. And, you know, she said, every time I read it, I find things I want to change. I said, okay, girl, listen. I'm no expert by any means, because I just published my 7th one, so it's not like Ann Gabhart, who just published her 40th, you know.
Oh yes.
But I said at some point you just gotta stop writing, stop editing, stop fiddling with it, and call it done. Otherwise, no one will ever see it.
Yeah. And then it's not fulfilling its purpose, right? Like if God has given us something to share, like our responsibility is to share it, like is to put it out there, whether it reaches one person or 10,000. Like, that's not up to us, and that's not our job. Our job is to write the thing that's been put on our heart to the best of our abilities, and then to let it go. And you know, and that's also where editors come in, because God bless them, because
they are the unsung heroes.
Yes, they're incredible. And I'm so thankful to have worked with many really excellent editors over the years, because they always make my books better, and I need them and appreciate them, and I'm so thankful for them.
Yeah. So what's your writing process like? For me, I tend to just kind of go in and just get it down. I don't worry about how pretty it is. I just get the story down, and then I pretty it up, and then I polish it up sort of during the editing process before it goes to the editor. So what's your process kind of like?
Well, I tend to write pretty clean, quote unquote, first drafts, but those first drafts, like as I'm going along, I'm not turning off my internal editor. So a lot of times, like I'll rework a section, or I'll, do this or that. And usually I would say, like, I'm not a fast drafter. I'm a pretty slow writer, and that works for me. But I tend to usually write chronologically. So I'll just start at the beginning, and here we go, chapter 1, and away we go.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big outliner, so I really love the discovery process in the writing, where, my character will do something and I'll be like, oh, I didn't think he was going to do that. And, oh, that's unusual, but, I really like that. And this could be this or that, or, and so I like how, when something happens that I don't expect as the author, which I know sounds really weird, but, it happens more often than I'd like to admit.
It does, yeah.
I was actually going to ask was if sometimes you are in the process and you're like, this is not where I thought it was going to go, but this is where it should go.
Yes.
Frequently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Because I know that as a reader, sometimes I'll be sitting there, I'll be like, that is not what I thought was coming. And so I've often wondered, like, did they come up with, like, were they thinking they were going to throw us off, or did it throw them off too?
Yes.
And I think it can
Those
both.
are the best surprises, though.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk a little bit about your New York Times bestselling the book that made the New York Times bestseller list. Now, that's every author's dream to hit that list. So
Yes.
what book was that? Tell us about that, and like, how did that happen?
Yes. Well, I wish that I could take any credit for it. I can take absolutely none. It was a novella collection put out by Barber in 2011, I think. And it was called the Log Cabin Christmas Collection. And the headline author was Wanda Brunstetter. And Wanda was just so gracious to let the rest of us ride her coattails all the way to the New York Times list. And it was a delight. It was really fun and very unexpected. There were 9 of us authors, all wrote Christmas stories set in log cabins in the 18 and 1900s. And but various locations around the country and differing years, and I wrote one set just at the end of the Civil War in Tennessee, where I was living at the time.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Maybe we could read that at Christmas time.
For sure.
You love Christmas. I love historical fiction.
I can't get enough. I can't get enough Christmas. I was listening to Christmas music when she came in this morning,
but it was a really good soundtrack.
It was.
So I was cool. I was like, I love this. I'm down for it.
Yeah,
it works.
It works. So, according to your bio, you enjoy speaking at sort of like women's conferences and writers' conferences and book groups. What kind of things? Tell us a little bit about the speaking events that you like to speak at.
Yeah. I've spoken at libraries and lots of writers' conferences. I've done digital and in person, kind of all of those things. And really, I like to talk about the craft of writing, but I think I more so even like to talk about just what God is teaching me through writing and how writing has shaped me. But also, one of the things that lately over the last couple of years I've been sharing a lot of is just finding joy in the journey of writing, because writing can be discouraging. It's kind of it's kind of a solo endeavor a lot of times, and I'm really blessed that I have a local writers group that's incredible, and it's a group of women that I'm very close to, and I love them. But when it gets down to it, the putting words on the paper or on the page is up to me. That is just me and my computer, and I've got to do the work. And then the results are not always, the results are almost never in my control. And that's been a hard lesson to learn. And so why is it that we write, and how do we find joy in that process of, because the publishing world is filled with rejection and 1-star reviews, and everybody has an opinion, and everybody's going to tell you you're doing it wrong, and if you don't do it just like this, you're doing it wrong, and if you do this, you're not a real writer, and if you and it's everybody has these strong opinions, and it's not that their opinions are bad. I just happen to think they're wrong.
Well, and sometimes they're damaging. Sometimes they're really damaging.
Yes. And so I've been talking a lot about just finding joy in the journey and rediscovering why we write. And for me, it all goes back to the parable of talents in the New Testament, and just this idea that we've been given talents, quite literally giftings to write. And if we bury those, we aren't honoring the master who gave them to us.
Yeah.
And so whether we've been given a little talent or even maybe a huge talent, but our talent is only reaching 2 or 3 people, if we're faithful to do that, then God will continue to be faithful to expand that reach. Whether it's whether we're best-selling authors every book or not. And so then if the joy is in the being faithful to do what we're supposed to versus the results, then I think it's a lot easier for me to find joy in that journey of faithfulness than it is in saying, oh, but I didn't sell a lot of copies, or I'm not being offered another contract, or or whatever it is, which so many of my writer friends, all of us have dealt with that, and I certainly have. just rejection after rejection over the years. In fact, I like to laugh that I've been rejected by every publisher who has ever published me. They've rejected me before they ever accepted a book. And you know what? That's okay, because all of that was me learning and growing, but also just being faithful to continue writing.
Yes. And I've mentioned this on other podcasts, but there's a moral in what you just said. Authors are going to grow as they write. Mm-hmm. Their first book is not going to be their best book, more than likely.
Right.
Just because as you write, you learn things, you learn the process, you learn technical things. And if I could encourage readers to do one thing, if you read a book by a new author and you don't like it, and so give them another shot, because if they've written 7 books and you read their first one and hated it, try reading their last one, because more than likely they've grown a little, they've learned some things. And yeah.
I think it takes such courage to keep putting yourself out there after maybe those 1-star reviews and the rejections. It takes a lot of
plays with your mind
to keep keep pouring your heart out onto a page, because really, in a way, those are like your children. I mean, these are your babies that you're giving birth to. And so we want everybody to love our babies as much as we do, but so I say bravo to both of you that you continue to do it. That's courageous.
And I don't know about you, but I've got 2 books of my 7 that I get the most, like, where readers reach out to me, they email me or whatever, and that really touch them. And that really helps authors a lot when they do that, because I know you both know how this, whether we're talking about books or whether we're just talking about in general, it's so much easier to believe the negative stuff that people say about you, that the things that you think about yourself. And it's so funny. You can hear from 10 readers that be like, oh my goodness, I love you. I love this book. It touched my life so much. You get that one star review and your whole world crashes down, and it totally negates the 10 great,
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
So I have a purely selfish question. What is your favorite book of all time?
Oh,
if you can narrow it down to one. People ask me, he's asked me that. You asked me that on our first podcast. I was like, Brett, I can't give you just one.
No.
And it changes from week to week.
It really does. So,
but
what is maybe what is a book that has truly impacted you and that you go back to and read again and again and again?
Yeah. Man, it is hard to narrow it down. There are so many incredible books, and I'm very much a mood reader. So whatever I'm in the mood for, that's what I'm gonna pick up. But the book that changed my life as a child was The Witch of Blackbird Pond, by Elizabeth George Spear. It was a Newbery Award winner about a Puritan colony in the late 1600s. It was written in the 50s, but man, it's a story of an outsider she's a Quaker woman, and everybody thinks she's a witch. She's of course not. But I fell in love with books, I think, because of that book. That is a book that I continue to go back to. And every time I reread it, I'm like, man, this holds up. This is so good. It's just one of those books that is sort of a comfort read for me, but also just a reminder of the power of story and of just friendship. Oh, it's got such a beautiful friendship in it. And also a little love story, which of course, my 12-year-old heart loved and still does. So I think The Witch of Blackbird Pond has been probably one of my most inspiring.
When you said the title of that book, it almost gives me Michelle Greep vibes. It sounds like a book she would have written.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah.
Have you ever read it?
No.
It's really good.
Oh, I was going to ask you if you have. I'm not real big on classic literature, and she loves it. Yeah.
I love everything, though. I am not. This is so funny. In my car right now, I have Dream West by David Nevin, which is it's historical fiction, but it's based on it's based on actual events and on an individual that traveled and helped map out past the Mississippi when the West was kind of being thing. And so it's very. It's not a easy read. It's a pretty long, it's a big, thick book. But then I'm also listening to on audiobook Brandon Sanderson. It's a high fantasy set in the Cosmere. Like I'm in the 5th book of the Way of Kings set right now. And so like on the one hand, I've got this going on, and then I've got the other going on, and then I'm a homeschool mom, and so
wow.
my daughter did book club at our co-op this last semester, and they read Summer of the Monkeys by Wilson Rawls, which it was written a while back. It's an older one, but she felt, this is maybe like you were talking about something falling in love with a book. I think I'm watching Stella like fall in love with stories because she got the book and they read it in their class and she loved it. And then we listened to it on audiobook. And now she's just like, Mom, like she listens to it all the time. I walked in her room the other day and she was like, Alexa, play Summer of the Monkeys by Wilson Rawls. And I was like, you've listened to this like 4 times already. And she's like, I just love it so much. And I was like, well, let's find you another book, you know? And so I'm hopeful. She's 9. And I'm like, oh, please, Lord, let her be my one that loves to read with me, because my son, he'll read, but it's not his favorite. But I think I'm watching that happen in her, and that's such a cool thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how people cannot enjoy reading. I don't get people like that.
No, I've loved to read since I was little. I think I told you, my mom and dad bought me the Little House on the Prairie set when I was like 7 or 8, and I always read early and more advanced for my age, so it was okay. But that started it for me, a lifelong love, and like that's my thing. That's what I do for comfort, for relaxation. When I got grounded, it was Dad taking my books out of my room. Like, it's just not taking away TV, but my books. So that's been my thing. So I think reading is a wonderful escape, but it also can expand the mind too. So it's a great thing.
Yeah.
So what kind of daily writing goals do you set for yourself, and how much time do you spend per writing? Or is it a daily thing, or is it?
Yeah, no, it's not a daily thing for me. I have a day job. I work in marketing for a nonprofit here in the Phoenix area. And so my days are full and long. And by the time I get home at the end of the day, I used to do like the majority of my writing between like 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. But the older I get, the less I can do that.
It's less sustainable.
No, it's like, oh no, I need to go to bed earlier than I once did, I think. And so I find that I do the majority of my writing on the weekends. I try to, I'm very deadline motivated. So if I don't have a deadline, an urgent one coming up, I will sometimes go for months without really putting a lot of words down. And I find that time is just really useful for me. This is going to sound a little crazy, but I think maybe all authors are. I just spend time with my characters. In my head, I'm thinking about like, oh, I'm in this situation. What would my characters do in this situation? Oh, I wonder if they could do this, or I wonder. And so I spend a lot of like pre-work, like pre-writing time with them. And then as my deadlines approach, usually about 4 months, 5 months out, I say, okay, it's about time I sit down and start actually putting some words down. And that's when I really, get going. I often, like, if I have a lunch break, usually my lunch is at my desk at work, but if I'm like, oh, I'm in kind of a slower season, or if I'm on deadline, I'll take my writing laptop to work with me, and then I'll take a lunch break and I'll sit in the lunchroom and I'll work for an hour, and then I'll go back to my day job. And so really, I try and fit in a little bit of time here or there. But by the time I start, I've spent enough time with my characters that I feel like, oh, I kind of know them, and I kind of know where this story is going, and I know them enough to get started at least. And then the process of starting gets me to those, oh, here's a surprise, or here's something I wasn't expecting. And and then we keep moving forward. Yeah.
So is the hope that someday writing will be your full-time thing, or do you love what you do in your day job and intend to continue that?
My brother asks me that regularly, and I laugh and I say, I don't think you know how much writers make.
It's true.
I think it's pretty unrealistic for me personally to think about that, to think about being a full-time writer. I'm a single, and I don't have a patron of the arts. I wish I did.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
But I really like having benefits and health insurance and that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially raising kids.
So the day job is really important to me for that. I like the stability of having a regular paycheck, knowing what my paycheck is going to be from month to month. And I've seen several friends who have tried to go full time as writers and seen them burn out really fast.
Right.
And that's a fear of mine. And so I think I'd much rather, like, I found kind of a good rhythm for me is work full time and write about a book a year. And that book a year kind of pace has been really good for me, where I feel like I'm not burnt out on writing. I don't have to stress about, am I selling enough books? Am I, you know,
that's probably a different kind of pressure if you're depending on that for your income.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
For survival.
Yeah.
For sure.
Whereas this maybe just allows the creativity to flow and to utilize, you know, the gifts that the Lord gave you.
Yeah. You know, a lady that I know, and she's a sweet lady, she kind of like got mad at me because I wouldn't give her one of my books, you know, because I have to buy the books in order to sell them, you know, and so, and I have in the past, but I only had like a very few, and I was fixing to go to a book signing. So I really could. So I was like, well, you know, I've limited on books. So, and I really need to say what I have for
this event.
for the book event. So I said, but if you'll come to the event and buy it, you know, because I mean, I've literally given her like 3 of my last past books. And she was like, well, as much as you make as an author, it wouldn't really hurt you. I was like, oh, sweetie, let me tell you.
Yes. Yes.
Authors, you know, we're not all James Patterson rolling in the dough.
I want to support my author friends. Like, why would you not want to support your friends and buy the thing that has like, they have labored over?
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, I don't get that.
Yeah. So I thought that was funny because there's just this
entitlement.
Well, and like, there's just this assumption that if you publish books, you're rolling in it. Well, that's rarely, especially in Christian fiction, because let's be honest, there's a lot of Christians that won't touch a Christian fiction book with a 10-foot pole.
Right.
They will only read secular. So really, Christian fiction is even though it's a big genre,
do you think it's a smaller reader base?
It's kind of niche. Yeah.
It is a smaller reader base, really?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it is a big genre, but I still feel like it's kind of niche because secular people, non-Christians, most of them will not pick up. And if they accidentally pick one up, it offends them to their very core. And you hear about it in reviews, you know, if you use God's name in any other way other than a profanity, it's offensive to them, you know. And then there's a lot of, I know Christians that will not pick up a Christian fiction book, including mine, because they're poor quality. They're not, you know, and there's a stigma attached to Christian fiction.
I guess maybe because I grew up reading it, that seems so foreign to me.
Yeah.
Because I know there are many great authors that write Christian fiction, or the ones that I love anyway. Maybe I'm not enough of a critic, but I enjoy them.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Liz? Do you kind of think there's kind of still a stigma? And I think maybe it's getting better, but I still think there's a stigma attached to Christian fiction.
Oh, for sure. For sure. You know, in the 80s and 90s, it was very common that every Christian fiction book had sort of a come to Jesus moment, and everybody, you know, the unbeliever became a believer on the page, and that was so important. And so, you know, I mean, for lack of a better term, there was preaching in those books, and it wasn't wrong preaching. It was just that you don't necessarily pick up a novel and say, I want to be preached at today.
Right.
Instead, you pick up a novel and you say, I want a great story that reminds me of God's love and his sacrifice and you know, and the Christian life. And so, and the struggles we face, but the ability to overcome that we have in God. And so, I think a lot of readers pick up books and still expect those 90s era, you know,
hit you over the head with it.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like
really hard.
Yeah. Like you don't meet a person and just immediately be like, hey, let me tell you how much Jesus loves you. And then if you don't, you know, like, and
or
maybe it's the same way
right now.
Yeah. Or you're going to go straight to hell. Like,
yes. And it's like, oh,
you don't do that with someone you've just met.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so a book can be the same way. Yeah,
exactly.
You know, and for me as a Christian fiction reader, because I'm not only an author, I love reading Christian fiction, and for me, and I'm going to sort of use this as a segue to moving in and talking about the books. I don't necessarily. I like books that have a strong Christian
stance
theme to it.
Yeah.
But I'm also happy with books that just have a very light, you know, because the Christian faith is not always preaching. It's sometimes I enjoy just watching characters living out their faith, living out their adversities, living out their, you know, the things that they're going through in life, like, and doing it with just a sliver of faith. It doesn't have to bonk you over the head. And I watched, I saw a video on, I'm not a big social media person, you know, but I saw a video of this lady. I had gone on to post a clip to our podcast TikTok page. And well, the very first video that popped up was this girl, it was this lady, and she was like, if you're a Christian fiction author and it doesn't have scripture and it doesn't just have strong messages of faith, you're just a fraud. And like, I'm like, okay, sweetie, you are what's wrong with social media, because not everything has to be like that. You know, I think there's room for, there's definitely room for those kind of books that have that stronger message. But I think there's just as much room for books that are just good, clean reads that just have a little bit of the gospel message in it.
Yeah.
So let's get into your book and talk about it. Again, your book is called Sometimes You Stay. Is that right? Sometimes You Stay.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, do you consider it rom-com or is it more romance? What's the genre?
You know, it's more romance probably. Okay. But it has some comedic moments, and
it does.
It probably has more humor than some of my other books. But
it was a super cute read.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. Yeah. I really enjoyed writing it, and I enjoyed it's kind of light, but I found those spiritual messages sort of like as I was trying to figure out, okay, how do I tie all these things together? And at the end of the day, it just felt like, oh, God was sort of like on a silver platter, like, oh, here's how you're going to tie it up. Here's how it's all going to come together. And it just felt like, oh, okay, here's a message of love and that love requires sacrifice. And that was just, it was just really encouraging to me as I wrote it. And I loved it.
Yeah. Now, I would be interested to know, as an author, do you incorporate that those Christian themes into it? Or do you just kind of get the story down and then, because sometimes I'll do that. Like I'll just kind of get the story down. And then as I'm editing, that's where I'll start inserting some of the Christian faith into it. You know, how do you do that?
Yeah, mine's much more interwoven usually from the start. Although like I had a line in one of the books I wrote called A Glitter of Gold, and the first line is that Anne knew that some things could be forgiven and some things most definitely could not, or something like that. And her whole journey is this idea that she has done things that are so bad that they can never be forgiven. And so, you know, so that's like a lot deeper spiritual sort of, she's wrestling with shame and guilt and this idea of forgiveness.
That's good.
And so so sometimes it's like really from the get-go, it's in there. But, you know, a lot of times for me, I will get to like the 2/3 of the way part of the book, and I'll go, okay, I don't know how to bring like everything together. Like I have all these storylines, and how do I bring it together?
Like some of it kind of gels together while you're writing it, especially when it comes to the Christian themes. But sometimes, I just have to sometimes it just feels like it's easier just to kind of, as I'm reading it, as I'm self-editing, sort of edit it in as I'm reading. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And you know, God has always been so faithful to me to sort of like reveal to me, like I always have an epiphany that like, oh, this is what I should do. This is how this book wraps up. And sometimes like I'm driving to work and it'll be like, oh, that's what I'm going to do. And then bada bing, bada boom, you know, then I have to jot myself a note so that night I can do that. But it's like, sometimes just having those like moments, those epiphanies is in those, I find that God is like revealing both truth to me, but also like truth that I can weave into the book. And so a lot of times it's like, I try really hard not to be sort of a, I'm not going to beat you over the head preaching in my books, but I want to reveal truth. I want to focus on truth. And my characters, whether they know it or not, are all living through a Christian worldview. And so a lot of times, and sometimes that just looks like, oh, I'm going to make this decision because not even because I'm a Christian, like because the character is a Christian, but just this is the decision that I'm going to make because I feel like this is my conviction kind of thing. And so, so sometimes I'm not like, I don't use a lot of Jesus's name in my books, but rather the truth of the gospel that, the truth will set you free.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So this has happened to me a couple of times in writing my novels. Have you ever had a clear idea of how a book was going to end? And then when you get there, it's like something happens and it happens totally different than the way you envisioned it. And then you're like, wow, like so that has happened to me a couple times.
I cheat. I write romances, and so I always know how they're going to end. There's no doubt that there will be a happy ending and that my characters will end up together. And so, so I wouldn't say that I've had a lot where it's like, oh, this was surprising. More the surprises come earlier in the book. And it'll be like, oh, I didn't know this character was like this, or I didn't anticipate this character to do XYZ.
So Brett got Baker sent you Sometimes You Stay, so you could kind of.
Yeah.
So Brett got to read it, but I did not. I did not have time. And so I'm reading I started another one of yours, and I'm very curious to see where the rest of it goes. I started the first one in your Prince Edward Island series.
The Red Door Inn?
Yes.
Yeah.
No. Oliver and yes.
And Meg. Yeah. Beyond the Tides.
Okay. I already am just cracking up at these two characters. Like because I think I know these people in real life. So I'm very anxious to finish it. I think I'm enjoying it so far. So.
Oh, good. Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. Yeah. I loved writing their story. They were super fun.
Like in the first few chapters, I was just sitting there like rolling laughing because I was like, I know both of you. Like,
yes. I will say that book was the farthest, like the finished product was the farthest from what I had envisioned a book to be. And I wrote that book in 2020 during the pandemic. And my dad had in April of that year, so right after the pandemic started, my dad had a massive heart incident.
Oh, no.
He's okay now, but and that's been 5 years
Praise
ago.
the Lord.
But it was very scary for us, and he was in a heart hospital for a week, and we couldn't see him because of COVID, and there was all this like.
So does that kind of inform her mother, the character of her mother? Okay.
Yes. So I 100%. I was going to write the book where her mother had died prior to the book starting. And I started to write the book, and I said, I cannot kill off a parent. I can't kill anybody right now. Like I was in such a place that I was like,
sure.
But it also ended up being like, when you go through something really scary with somebody that you love, in terms of like, you just recognize their mortality and your own mortality. And you remember that our time is limited. I really wrestled with when my dad got out of the hospital. I went to stay with my parents for about 5 weeks and just help out how I could. And, my dad was doing well, but he was suffering from a lot of nerve damage after they shocked his heart. They had to shock his heart like 12 times. And so that had nerve damage in his hands and his feet. And he like, I just had this moment where I was like, this is really scary because I don't know what happens next. Like, I don't know if my dad gets better or if we're going to lose him really soon.
Right.
And in some ways I had a little part of me that was like, it would be easier just to pull back. It would be easier just to put a little distance in my relationship with him, because it hurt so much when we thought that we were going to lose him. And then at the same time, I sort of had to wrestle with this, like, okay, I can pull back or I can lean in, and
Embrace.
I can really invest in my relationship with my dad for however long I have it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like, none of us are promised tomorrow. God knows the number of our days. But at the end of the day, like, I can lean in or I can pull back. And those are my options. And so I leaned in, and I'm so thankful that I did. But that actually then informed this relationship that Meg has with her mom in Beyond the Tides, because her mom is dealing with an illness, a chronic illness that, you know, at the beginning, they can't even diagnose it. They don't know what it is. And so, yeah. So again, I was really thinking, oh, I'm gonna, you know, Meg's mom is going to have passed away before the book started. And then when I started writing it, I was like, no.
So is it
like,
sort of therapeutic in a way to kind of work your way through those things?
In that book, yes,
Okay.
absolutely. I won't say that every book has a moment like that. It just was like, for that book, it was very much, just the right book at the right time for me to tell that story of leaning into those relationships even when it's scary.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And Dad's doing okay.
Yeah, Dad is doing okay.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
He's chugging along, and man, he's a warrior for Christ, and he goes to one of the federal prisons here in Arizona 3 times a week and teaches Bible study. I mean, he's just
wonderful.
doing it. So,
he's still working for the kingdom. So,
yes, he is. He said, well, God gave me more time, so I guess I better use it.
Use it wisely. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so let's dig into this book a little bit. So it's about a social influencer, Creisha. Creisha. I went to school with a girl named Creisha, but it wasn't spelled that way. She's a pretty well-known social media influencer on YouTube, content creator. And then Finn is he raises animals.
He's a dog breeder and trainer.
Dog breeder, yes. Okay, yeah. So she has found her way into Prince Edward Island, and she's kind of walking along, and she gets knocked into the water, and she doesn't really know what happened to her. But as a social media influencer, she had all of her stuff in her backpack, and loses all of her equipment. Well, come to find out, she had a great rescuer. So tell the readers who that great rescuer was.
Yeah. So Finn is running his family's dog breeding and training business, and he's the 3rd generation to do this. And they raise specifically Newfoundland dogs. And Newfoundland dogs are, if you've never seen one, they're huge. They're usually big and black and furry, and they kind of look like a bear. And they are, you can see one pictured on the cover of Sometimes You Stay. And they are, but they are often, they have really gentle spirits. And so, but they're you know, they're from Newfoundland, the province is where they originated. And so they're used to the cold and the water and all these things. And so anyway, so they're really good at being rescue dogs. And so they often are trained and used for rescue. And so, so when Creisha falls into the harbor there in North Rustico, Prince Edward Island, she is splashing and trying to get to the surface. And all of a sudden she sees what she thinks is a bear jumping into the water
to save her.
Which, let's be honest, do I want to eat by a bear or do I want to drown?
Yes, exactly. And she's really kind of struggling with that. But it turns out to be Joe Jr., who is Finn's Newfoundland dog. And he actually, even though he can't follow most instructions, he's a little bit goofy. He's just a little bit dopey. The dog, he rescues Creisha. And
although I guess that could describe a man too, I guess. Huh?
I just thought maybe I better be specific there. Yes. And so so Finn rescues her and takes her to the Red Door Inn, which readers of mine will know the Red Door Inn from previous series. And,
so this is the third. Is this the third book in the series?
No, it's not. It's not part of the original series.
Oh, okay.
So there were 3 books in the original series, and then I wrote Meddling with Mistletoe and Sometimes You Stay, which are sort of like almost 10 years later. We're catching up with our friends from the Red Door Inn. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, do you have a copy of the book there in front of you? Before we go on to okay, so I'm going to flash an image of the book cover for the people that are watching, but for the people that are listening, it's kind of a cartoonized cover.
It's illustrated, yeah.
It's illustrated, yeah. It's got a picture of a man and woman walking on it. They've got kind of a rural background behind them, and then they've got this big, huge dog in front of them. So it's just it's a super cute cover. I'm a cover person, so I always I'm one of those people when I get a book, whether it's on Kindle or whether it's a paperback, like I have to look.
This is one of the areas he and I differ. We've talked about that. I don't look at covers at all.
I need to look at every inch of the cover before I even start reading it. Yeah. So tell us, take us on into the book.
Yeah. So Creisha's this travel influencer. She's a digital content creator. She's lost all of her equipment, and what's she going to do? But Creisha is also kind of unique because she does not have a permanent home base. She grew up in Arizona, on the border with Mexico, but her mom is a hoarder. Her mom, just always valued stuff over people. And she's got some other challenges and struggles. And so Creisha's, I think, I tried to treat her mom with a lot of grace and compassion because there's obviously some challenges and some things that really hurt her that caused her to go into that lifestyle. But Creisha in high school decided she was never going to be like her mom. And so her mentality is that a home is really just a place to collect stuff. And so she doesn't need a home. She's just going to be on the road. And so everything she owns is in this roller carry-on and her backpack. And as a notorious overpacker, I was like, how can she do this? I was trying to figure out, like, okay, how much can she fit in there, and is it enough? But she makes it work. And so she doesn't have a home base. Everything she owns is in these bags, and all of a sudden, these bags are her backpack is soaked through and through. Her laptop is ruined. She smashes her phone. Her tablet won't turn on. Like, she's got no electronics. And
as a viral content creator, this is like devastating because she can't do anything. She can't maintain any flow in her normal life because it's all at the bottom of the bay.
Yes. And she's so electronically dependent. Like, she doesn't even remember what hotel she's staying at in Charlottetown because that's on her phone. That's, she doesn't have her reservations for anything. She can't access anything. Her credit cards are all gone. She's got nothing. And so she's like, oh, what am I going to do? Well, Finn connects her with Marie, who owns the Red Door Inn. And it's just before the start of the tourist season. And so Marie's like, we don't have anybody staying at the inn yet. Here, come stay, have a room. And Creisha is very much like, I don't want to owe anybody anything. Like, I want to pay for everything. I'll figure this out. I'll wire you money as soon as I get my, but she can't go anywhere without her electronics. And so she orders new electronics, but of course they're going to take a couple weeks to get to Prince Edward Island, because of course PEI does not have an Apple store. They don't have any place. Well, they do have an Apple store, but it's connected to an orchard. It's like edible apples, not electronic apples. And so so she ends up being stuck there on PEI, but and befriending Finn, who actually has internet that works, even though it's like from the 1900s.
Dial up.
It is. It's a very
if
old,
you know, you know.
Yes, and she definitely makes fun of him. But anyway, but she befriends him, and he befriends her, and she forms this friendship with Marie, and she starts like seeing this town in a way
building a community.
Yes, that is like, oh, maybe her nomadic lifestyle, she's been missing out. She's been missing out on real friendship. And what does it mean to really be part of a community and to really know someone and have somebody know you and to have true friendship? And then the longer she spends with Finn, she realizes that what she feels for him isn't really friendship. But she, he's never going to leave because he's the fourth generation living on his farm, the third generation doing his doing this business. He's never going to leave PEI, and she can't stay because that means a house and a home and stuff, and she cannot be buried by stuff. And so, that's kind of their conflict in their story. But then there's lots of fun animals because Finn he just collects strays. And so anytime there's an animal in need, he's got a barn and he brings them in. So there's a one-eyed cow named Roberta, and there's goats, and there's dogs and bunnies and all sorts of things. So go ahead.
There's two very polar opposite personalities in this book. He's very home-based, put down roots. She's the total opposite. Which is more like you?
Yeah. No, I'm definitely more like Finn in terms of
roots.
I mean, I do I love to travel. And I did move away from home when I was 25. And for 10 years, I worked in Christian publishing. And I lived in Colorado Springs and Nashville, and I loved that. Those were great experiences. But at the end of the day, I was like, I'm missing out on my nieces and nephews growing up. I'm missing out on time with my family. My parents are getting older, and I want to spend more time with them. And so it just felt like, okay, I'm going to move back home. And so I did. I moved back to Arizona, and I'm thankful that I did. And so it's like, I'm definitely, even though I have an adventurous spirit, I'm much more like Finn.
Yeah, well, and I think I really liked sort of the lesson that you sort of built into the book because, she's very connected to social media, to technology. I personally am not. I can take it or leave it. But at the end of the day, even though she still is connected to her technology, at the end of the day, she realizes, okay, there's more to life than this.
Yes.
Well, I think there's a whole section of our nation today and the culture today that live their whole lives online. I mean, everything they do, their lives truly are a spectacle, an online spectacle. And that a lot of people I know, their friends, their only friends are online, like they've never met in person.
It's about finding a balance.
Yeah.
Are you into like content creating or anything like that?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
I thought it was very funny because I think I would be a terrible content creator full time. I mean, I work in marketing, so of course but a lot of my content creation stuff ends up being written materials. And, I tend to be much more word driven than video driven.
Yeah. So where did this theme of writing from the perspective of a social media influencer, because where did that theme come from? Since that's not really a part of your makeup.
Really, it came from just this idea that I wanted to have somebody lose everything and be stuck on PEI. And why would somebody not want to be stuck on PEI? That was my first question. And because I would. And then two,
have you been there?
Oh yes, I've been 6 times, and it's the best, and I highly recommend it.
It's gorgeous.
Yes. And so I just started asking myself all these questions, like why could somebody end up being stuck there? What would cause that? And that's where I came up with this idea of like, oh, well, if she's a content creator and everything she owns is in her backpack and she loses that, what's she going to do?
Yeah. There was a little bit of a conundrum between her and Finn as well, because he was like, I don't get, like, she told him, I'm a content creator. I travel the world and film. And he's like, I don't get it. And she kind of got frustrated with him because, which is amazing that in this day and age that people wouldn't get that, because like I said, so many people are just oversaturated with that. So there was a fun little dynamic there between them, because he was just like, yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah. Like, what do you mean it's a job? How do you pay your bills? Like, I don't understand. Like,
we have this conversation with my kids all the time, because parents like, well, Mom, I actually could start a YouTube channel. And I'm like, no, we ain't doing that. We are not videotaping our whole lives. They'll be like, but so-and-so does it. And, they have this handful of people that they watch, that they like. And I'm like, guys, listen, this is not for most people a realistic thing. Like, I get it. It takes off for a handful, but I don't know. I think that that's a sustainable way. And they're so young, though, that their lives, to them, that is just the norm.
Yes. I know so many young kids who want to be social media influencers. It's such a part of their life that to them, it seems like a valid, it's like, in my day, you wanted to be a firefighter. You wanted to be an astronaut. Nowadays, they want to be a social media influencer.
Yeah, like, I'm going to start my own YouTube channel and be famous. And it's like, famous for what?
Right.
Although some famous influencers are famous for nothing. So
I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, when I was writing Finn's character and like asking all these questions about what is it that you actually do, I really took on my parents' mentality in that, and and I thought these are questions my mom and dad would ask, because they have no clue. Like, they're not on social media. They, they're on YouTube, but they're watching clips or Jeopardy or something else. Like, they're not, they're not watching these influencers who are.
Well, they're broadcasting their whole lives.
Yes.
Or what they want you to think is their lives.
Yes.
That too.
Their lives as they portray them.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. And it's so hard to, like our YouTube channel's not doing that great. Like, we do a lot better on the podcast platform part. And, so I've tried different things to try to get, like posting smaller clips and, and a friend of mine, she was like, we were talking and she was like, okay, so we need to try to work up some strategies to try to get your YouTube, and she was like, so what do we need to do? And I said, well, I'll tell you what I think. In order to be successful on YouTube, or basically Instagram or TikTok or anything, you need to be super hot, you need to be half naked, and you need to dance. I'm not doing I'm none of that. I'm not good looking. No. I'm not going to dance for your entertainment. And I have no, and for me, for when I watch content, I like long content with some substance to it. I like watching it because
you don't want to clip this long.
What kind of value is in a 10-second clip? It's like I like longer content where I can learn something or where I can, and that's not where most people are in social media. Like they can have a 5-second video and watch the first 2 seconds of it and then scroll into the next one. But it's because
we live in such an instant gratification world now. Like they want that dopamine. It's a dopamine hit. If you study the science behind it, the more you scroll and watch those, our brains, it's changing our brains.
Yeah.
And not in a good way.
No. And so my kids are like, Mom, I can't believe you have timers on their Chromebooks for school. And I'm like, you don't need to be on your computer all day long, all night long. Like, I'm not going to have you just turn into some mindless little bot that just wants to watch things, and so... Yep. I turn them off and I make them go outside and they think I'm awful for it. But
But I am always encouraged when I hear, that the younger generation is also like picking up real books again, because they're like, I don't want to read ebooks because I'm on my screens all the time for school and for games and all this other stuff. And so I'm, there's been a resurgence of print books, and I'm like, yay! I'm happy about it too. And I love that.
When we first started doing this, you asked me, you were like, do you want an ebook or do you want a paperback? And I said, listen, I love me a paperback book. Like there's just something about the feel of it in my hands, the way the paper sounds when I'm turning it. Like I love that. Now I do still use my Kindle and I do some audiobooks, but that's mostly for when I'm in the car.
Yeah.
If I'm sitting at home reading, I want that paper in my hands.
Yeah, and I'm surprised. I have become surprisingly fond of Kindle. Yeah, like I never thought I would be a Kindle person, but it's so convenient. Of course, I'm a guy. I don't carry a purse. I don't have anything to carry a book in. So you can have a book with you everywhere. So I've actually gotten to where
for convenience, the Kindle is
surprisingly have gravitated to Kindle.
Do you have a Kindle or an
I do have
e-reader?
a Kindle. I do have a Kindle, although I haven't read anything on it in years. I actually read mostly on my Kindle app on my phone.
Yeah, I do that too.
Just
a lot.
because it's with me everywhere I go. It's not something extra I have to carry. And I don't mind like the size of it. It makes it pretty convenient. Plus in bed, it's not like I'm not having to hold anything too large. And it's like, So when I'm reading before bed, I'm like, oh yeah, this is just really easy.
Yeah.
But I love being surrounded by print books too. And so, although I've seen, the memes that are like, reading books and buying books are two different hobbies. And I'm like, yes, that is so
they
true.
are.
It's so true.
And I've actually watched videos on YouTube where they actually, apparently, I didn't realize this was a thing. Cause again, I'm not a huge social media person. Apparently it's a thing where all these teeny boppers stand up on their TikTok and talk about, oh, I bought this book, and they never read them. It's just, it's just it's almost like there's a social stigma attached to being a reader, but they're not actually readers. I'm like, what's the fun in that?
You miss out on so much good stuff.
Yeah. So how do you think, since the book centers on technology and it's a romance, how do you feel like romance, like people finding each other, how do those things intertwine in today's world? Do you have a sort of a thoughts on that?
I have thoughts. I don't know how wise or deep they are, but I have a lot of friends who have met someone on a dating app, and that's been great for them. My experience has been less great with that. But I will say that
I don't even want to find anyone that way. I want to meet them in the flesh. I don't want to meet them online.
Right. I want like a good old fashioned. I want like a friend or a family member to say, I know this person who is great. Can I connect you? Or let me set this up. Although I did just watch Pride and Prejudice recently, and I don't want like a Mr. Collins coming to propose or anything. But I think that there's honestly, I think that technology has maybe made dating harder. Maybe let me rephrase. It has made the hookup culture really easy, but I don't think that's healthy, and I don't think that's what we're intended for. And so it's like, but I think like forming like real bonds, finding true connection, like that is what we're designed for, right? Like God made us for relationships. And so actually finding those true connections, I think, is maybe harder because of technology. Because I think we're so distracted on our phones all the time that we miss and we don't go out to do things that are, potentially connective. I even think about like sometimes I go to church on Sunday, and sometimes I'll pull out my phone and I'm on my phone instead of like chatting with people around me. And I'm like, why am I doing this? So it's like, I think like in general, technology has made us more siloed and less like wanting connection. And so, so, and I think in a lot of ways, this book, without saying it explicitly, really says that without technology, this is when her eyes are open to what community is and what love really can look like. And and even though she was not on the hunt for love, she's not looking for love.
She found it.
Exactly. It's
or rather, it found her, maybe.
And the ironic thing about it is, like people are so immersed in their devices and their technology because they're looking for a connection,
right?
But they're missing but they're connecting with the wrong people. They're connecting with all these social media influencers that are showing you a fraction of their life.
Right.
That's who they're getting connected to. And then they're missing the connections right in front of them, and it breaks my heart sometimes. I know you both have seen it. You go to a restaurant, and like our family, when we go out with my brother and my parents, like we're
engaging
not
with one another.
Yes, we engage with each other. Very rarely does anyone get on their phones.
Yeah.
but I have literally looked across the room and seen a mom and a dad and their 2 kids there or whatever. And
everybody's on a phone.
And mom and dad are on their phones, and kids, and I've literally seen kids like, mama, like, and mom's like, and it's like, pay attention to your kids.
Yeah.
It breaks my heart sometimes.
Yeah. It's, I'm so thankful of my family as well. Like when we go out, and there's 12 of us, including my nieces and nephews. And, so we're a big group when we go out, and we're loud. But the understanding is that phones stay away. Like, unless somebody's like asked a question that requires a Google answer, because nobody else can answer it. But we're there to like, tell me about what's going on in school. Tell me about what you're doing over here. Tell me about, like what's happening with this, and what are you thinking about? Like, all my nieces and nephews, except the oldest, are in college or are in high school right now. And the oldest is in college. And so it's like, it's like, oh, what are you thinking about for college? What do you want to do with your life? Like, we're asking big picture questions and dreaming with them about what life could look like for them. And that's so much bigger than a screen.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And it's just so much more for me. It's just so much more. The flesh and blood connections right up from you, they're so much more fulfilling. Like everything you see on your phone, it's just empty entertainment. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with entertainment. If sometimes we all need to unplug and just entertain, but I find social media reels, and I very rarely watch them. I'm one of the, like, I don't just sit and but I find it all very vacuous and unfulfilling. You too?
Yeah. And I will say I'm guilty of that sometimes. If I just need a moment to disconnect, like, because when you're home 24/7 with 3 little ones, sometimes I just need like 5 minutes, and I'm guilty of that. I'll go to my bathroom's where I hide from my kids because I can lock the door for a few minutes, and it's not unacceptable.
And you're a parent when you start going to the bathroom to get some peace.
Just for like 5 minutes, I'll go sit in there, and sometimes I'll think, okay, I'm just going to sit here for 5 minutes and be quiet. And I'll inevitably catch myself scrolling, and they call it doom scrolling for a reason. And I'm sitting here going, this is not adding anything to me. And so that's something the Lord has really been dealing with me about over the last several weeks, is like, when you take time to set aside and be quiet, you have to get rid of the distractions. And for me, social media is nothing more than a distraction. And so I have to be very intentional about putting that phone away. And getting somewhere where there is not a ton of distraction, and I can just be quiet in his presence. And those moments that I spend with him in the quiet, rather than just locking myself in the bathroom for 5 minutes, if I'll take 10 minutes early in the day, 15 minutes to sit with him and let him speak to my heart, I'm a much better mom. I'm a much better teacher. I'm a better wife. Like I'm doing all of the things, because then he's informing my day and he's guiding my way. And I'm connected to my creator. And so that longing that I have for connection is fulfilled.
Exactly. And I think that's probably part of the reason. And I know you guys are on social media a lot too, probably. So you've seen it. People are so discontent on social media. I'm very careful about the clips that I post on ours. I try not to post anything that anyone would find offensive, anything, and on ours, people really tend to, which is kind of surprises me on TikTok, especially. I tend to, like, the people, we get the most engagement on videos that are more gospel centered, faith-based, that have a little bit of depth to it. And I've tried playing, doing some little cutesy stuff. But I posted something the other day. It was from an author that I was talking to, Heidi Gray McGill, and she was talking about one of the characters in her book, and it was a historical fiction, and she was talking about how the characters back in that day, they were uneducated, so I posted that little clip because I liked that clip. Well, somebody commented on it that they were offended because the people back in that, it was like in the 1800s, they weren't uneducated, they just lived in it. I'm like, okay, you found something to be offended by. It's like, and that's what people on social media do. It's so toxic. They they don't watch. It's almost like they don't watch to enjoy. They're so discontent that they watch to find something to be offended by.
But I think that's why it's all the more important that we have people putting out content that is encouraging. Because even like you said earlier, if it just reaches one person, touches their heart, brings hope and encouragement to their day, then it's worth it.
Yeah.
You just have to have that thicker skin to let it roll off, which
Exactly.
is sometimes hard.
Sometimes it's hard. Yeah.
I'm totally guilty of doom scrolling and, wasting way more time than I should on that. But, I think that like you were saying, Brett, like there's so much discontentment in this world. And so I think so much of that now comes from, we see people's highlights on their social media and we think that's their everyday life. And we forget that they're dealing with the dog just pooped in the corner, or whatever, like the real world stuff that is like, oh, this is not pretty. It's not attractive. It's not like like they wake up with morning hair too, but that's not what we see. And so if we're comparing our lives, it's really easy to think their lives are perfect and my life is a mess, when in fact, both of our lives are a mess. And we're only seeing just a snapshot,
the highlight reel
of their lives. And so, but on the other hand, like there is opportunity for connection. Like when you look at, I look at the Christian fiction community on Instagram, and it's like, oh man, I love like checking in with these ladies and like, what's going on in your life? And let me pray for you. And like, and it's like, okay, those are like good moments, but I don't think that we ever connect quite as well on media, on social media, as we do in person. We can never have that. And I think like our goal, like maybe not our goal, but like we all long to be known, right? To like, to really feel like we're known. And of course, God knows us intimately and knows the depths of our hearts. But we want other people to know us too, and for us to know them. And that's real love, I think. And so we're never going to have that through a screen. We're only going to have that when we connect face to face.
Yeah. And it does provide a good platform to keep up with people, but there is a digital divide. You can't feel totally connected, I don't think. Maybe other people can, but I just don't find a very strong connection there. Yeah. And I always think, they've got these beautiful house, everything looks perfect, but you know what? In the other room, there's probably a mountain of laundry that they're not showing you.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So one other question we have for you. So I know you mostly focus on romance, Christian fiction romance. If you wrote any other genre, if you were going to dabble in another genre, what would it be?
I think I have always wanted to write historical, but that requires being an expert in a specific, a specific time.
A historian.
Yes, exactly.
I've got a couple of ideas for historical, and I'm just like, I haven't had the nerve, because it takes a special skill.
It really does. It really does. And so much research. And
yes.
And even though contemporary books still take research, because you're often writing about jobs and things that you have never personally done. It's just a different kind of research. And so, so I think I would like to write historical, but every now and then I think, I'd really love to write fantasy. my brain doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And so I'm in writers group with a couple really excellent fantasy authors. And I'm just like, how do you come up with this? How do you create like
I think a lot of that has to come from the Lord, right? Like,
oh yes, for sure.
Because there's no way our brains, because some of these people are creating whole universes in their heads. And that's amazing to me. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Is there anything else about the book you wanted to bring out that we didn't talk about?
No, I don't think so. It's definitely kind of a light, fun read.
It is. It's a good beach read if you're into that. Yeah. And I will say definitely the pool. Yeah. And if you're a reader for no other reason than the animals in the book,
so
pick it up for that. If you're a total animal lover and you're like, maybe on the romance, there are some cute moments with the animals.
And it releases in May, right?
Yeah.
Comes out this month.
May 20th?
May 20th.
We're so close.
Yeah. Okay. Well, before we go, I've got a couple of little just last minute quick questions just to give the readers just a little something to get to know you. If you could sit down and talk with any author, living or dead, who would it be? Or not author, just any person.
Oh, any person.
Yeah. Any person.
Oh, okay. Abraham Lincoln has always been just an inspiration to me and somebody that I have loved. So I think Abraham Lincoln. Yeah.
Okay.
He would be interesting. Yeah.
If you were in a room with 1,000 readers who had never read your work and you can only recommend one book from your repertoire, which one would it be?
Oh.
And let's eliminate the one that we're here to talk about today. Yeah.
Yeah. The book that I always tell people to start with is The Red Door Inn.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would you say is one of the most difficult things that authors face these days?
Distractions. We just talked about, how close your phone is and doom scrolling and all these social medias. And we have a lot of people telling us you need to be on social media and you need to be creating content. You need to be doing this and that and the other. But the truth is, to be an author, you have to write. That's the only requirement. You just have to write. And so it's really easy to get distracted by all the things that have to be done, the laundry, the housekeeping, the family, the this, that. But if you're not writing, then you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing if you're an author. So I think distractions are the biggest challenge.
Number one.
And God can't receive the glory in what you're doing if it's sitting in your computer just untouched. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah. So if the Lord were to come down right now and say, Liz, you can ask me one question and I'm going to give you an answer to it, what would you ask him?
Oh no. Oh.
It's a hard one, right?
Oh no. I feel like I should have a list of questions that I'm like going to ask in heaven. And I don't, have that in front of me, but, okay, this is not a spiritual question. But
doesn't have to be.
Yeah, doesn't have to be.
I am fascinated by the JFK assassination. So I'd really like to know what actually happened. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you guys read the documents that they released?
I haven't. I've watched videos of people kind of highlighting certain things in it, but
I haven't gotten very far. But it is illuminating and frankly a little bit scary.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I have never considered myself a conspiracy theorist, but I might be on the road because I just told my husband, I was like, if this is true, if this is actually what happened, then no one in our government is to be trusted.
No.
Which I came from a municipal, but before I started staying home with our last child, I've only been home for like 2.5 years now. Prior to that, I worked in municipal government, and I know, like even just at the local level, how much corruption and if you're not, if you don't have people that are truly committed to the Lord, you've got to have integrity,
right,
which comes from the Lord. If you don't have that, no one is to be trusted. And so if this stuff is legit, I think it's a good question. I hope we find out.
Well, and I'm just saying, we may have to read that document and do a podcast episode about it.
We would be so far down the wormhole. It would be hours long.
Oh my gosh. Well, call me back when you guys do that because I would
you want
love
in on
to
that
be
one?
part of that. I want to be in on that. Yeah.
We could have you read it too, and you can come on and guest with us.
All right.
It's interesting. It is interesting.
Everything about him is just so interesting. I read a book. I can't remember. Will Mera, I think is the author's name. It's called Frame 34 or Frame 36, and it was about the babushka lady. Have you heard of her? Yeah, yes. And it was sort of it's a fictional book, but it's centered around the babushka lady. It's sort of like from her perspective. Of course, nobody knows who she is, but I am so like, I watch so much stuff on YouTube about the JFK.
Okay. Wow.
I've seen so many documentaries, and I went to Dealey Plaza and the book depository a couple of years ago, and I did the whole museum tour, and it was so interesting. But I also was like, I don't think we're getting the whole story here.
Oh no.
Some of the stuff that they have released is pretty I mean, for lack of a better word, it's damning of those that were involved.
Yes. Yeah.
It really is. And it's sad.
Well, and I saw a video that Glenn Beck did just in the last couple of days. And he even alluded to the fact that who was his vice president? LBJ. They apparently they even think he could have been a part of it.
Well, some of those documents.
I have heard. Yeah. I have heard rumors to that. Yes. Yeah. More
it's worth the read.
To that.
It's worth the read to kind of. I mean, you can kind of suss it out for yourself, but some of it is very clear that they laid out. And I mean, there are just memos. Like, and you're thinking they sealed them because they thought they were never going to be unsealed.
Yeah.
Right.
But the fact that they kept them, I'm like, if y'all were trying to cover up like the crime of the century, why did you keep this stuff?
Right?
Somebody should have had a shredder and just, shred.
Pull a Hillary, delete it all, lose the server, do whatever you got to do.
And thank goodness they didn't.
But I do hope for his family's sake, the truth should come out. Like,
yes,
it should.
Want the truth to be known.
Yeah, the Kennedy family deserves that.
Yeah, I think so.
And what in America deserves that?
Well, because he was really, of course, now I wasn't alive then, but everybody that I know of that period that was alive, like, people loved him.
Yeah.
He was a well-loved, well-liked president.
Yeah.
He may have been the last well-loved president.
That's maybe true.
Oh, no, I think Reagan was pretty loved.
I like Reagan.
Yeah, I've never really been a politically minded person up until the last few years. It's like, it's so amazing. Like, I can remember days when I didn't care who won or not. I voted, but I didn't really... Yeah. Maybe it comes with maturity. Well,
and I think it feels so much more critical in this day and age that we're living in, like, because the divide is so wide between the two sides.
Yeah.
It feels really important.
It does. Yeah.
In ways that it didn't when I was young. And, I even tell my kids, I'm like, listen, because Barrett, my son, he's 12 and he's just now, he hears things and he's a little sponge. He just soaks it all in. And he'll be like, I thought you didn't trust politicians. I'm like, I don't. But you still have to go do your civic duty you have to vote. And you have to make your voice heard, because if you don't get any right to say that you don't like how things are going.
Yeah.
So you do your part to be a good citizen, and that's a part of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So that was a good answer.
I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Talking about surprises. I love it.
All right. So I think we'll start wrapping this up. Why don't you tell the listeners where they can find you on social media?
Yeah, so I am on social media, on Instagram and Facebook, and both of those are at Liz Johnson Books. My website is also lizjohnsonbooks.com. And so I've got all my books up there and information about me and more than you probably want to know.
Never enough info.
Never enough info. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, and then you can catch us. We're everywhere under Bookish Introverts Podcast. We're on TikTok. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook.
YouTube.
I've got one on Twitter, which I never visit hardly ever.
It's X now. It's not Twitter
it's
anymore.
X. That's I'm showing my age. Yeah. We're on YouTube. My YouTube channel's under my name. But if you just go to the YouTube search engine and just type Bookish Introverts Podcast, it'll pull up all of our videos.
Spotify.
Yeah, we're on all major podcast platforms. Spotify, our two most listened platforms are Spotify and Pandora, but we're at all major, Apple Music, Audible. So wherever you listen to podcasts, we're there.
So what is your next book and next author, Brett, that you'll be visiting with?
Jane Kirkpatrick. Crying tears on the sand or crying. I can't remember the exact name of the book. But yeah, her new book is coming up. And I think it's I can't remember the title, but it's Jane Kirkpatrick. Yeah,
you'll find out on the next episode, listeners.
Yeah. So, anything else you want to say, Liz, before we get off here?
Oh, just thanks so much for having me. This was such a fun chat, and
thanks for visiting with us.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, you're a pleasure. Yeah. You got any parting words, Miss Charity?
Oh, I hope that you are surviving in what I'm sure is the coming Arizona heat.
Yes.
We've been there a few times. It's probably already a lot warmer there than it is here.
This weekend, thankfully, not too bad. It's supposed to be in the 70s this weekend.
That's nice.
So thankful for that, but it will get hot soon.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed visiting with you and just hearing both of your perspectives on the writing process. And it's been very interesting for me as a reader. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think this book is very timely, dealing with social media and content creators. I think that's a very interesting topic. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
I'll be reading it as soon as it comes out.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Well, Liz, thank you so much for coming on. And maybe you'll get a call from us in the future about talking about this.
About a JFK Jr. thing.
Yes.
I like it.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah. All right. Well, listeners, we thank you for listening in, and we will see you next time. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on the Bookish Introverts Podcast, where together we explore the worlds within the pages. Until next time, stay bookish.